What up, everybody? BMF Season 3, Episode 8, titled Code Red, starts out with Meech back in Atlanta at Platinum Palace as he noticed that Angel is now with Glock and the MKs. And Meech was noticeably bothered by this, and Angel looked back over at Meech as well. But Meech told Duffy that she's just doing what she has to do to stand on her own. Then Duffy introduced Meech to the new members that he recruited while Meech was in St. Louis: Bingo, Big Foley, and C-Note. Then Meech told his crew that the plug doesn't like small bills because they're too bulky to transport, so they're going to start taking their small bills and making it rain in the club. And BMF made it rain in Platinum Palace and ran the MKs out of the club. Then one of the strippers at the club told Meech that she would make him forget all about Angel, and after they hooked up, she told Meech that she could be his new girl. But Meech told her that he was focused on business right now and he's married to the game. Meanwhile, back in Detroit, Hoop gave T the news that T's plan to dry out Henry worked and that she owed the Chaldeans some serious bread. And when T heard that Henry's plug was the Chaldeans, he figured out that it was Henry who killed Peaches to steal her plug. At the same time, T mentioned that the Chaldeans was a local plug, so this changed things in T's mind, giving him a different angle of how he was going to deal with Henry. Either though Henry still did have to deal with how she's going to pay back the Chaldeans. And as T was closing his diner for the night, Officer Vince walked into the door to see what Terry's business was all about. Likely already suspicious that T was in the game after seeing Hoop, that pretty much confirmed it to him, and he threatened to report T to the IRS for unreported income. Because of this, T had to make sure that his books were lined up and that he found a new way to clean more money in case Vince was serious about reporting him to the IRS. Because like he told Hoop, Vince is desperate for Markeisha and would do anything to try to get him out of the way. Then he told Hoop to find out everything he could on Vince. The next day, Meech talked to Duffy about finding a way to protect the work and the homies from all the drug raids and busts going on in Atlanta, St. Louis, and in Detroit after he saw the Red Dogs search somebody's car leaving the club and finding a few bricks. To make matters worse, around this time period, they started making drug crimes federal. So Duffy found Meech a local mechanic who was able to set the cars up with a stash spot hidden inside the car door. Then Meech went to meet up with Claude about the plan to take out Remy Ransom and unite the Atlanta crews together. And during this conversation, Claude mentioned someone named Sharp, who he said he still had to convince, but as it stood, he felt like Sharp would rather unite with Remy to stand against BMF and the MKs. And Meech and Claude agreed to have a peaceful meeting in a public place to discuss an agreement. But Claude then had to talk to the guys to convince them to have the sit down with Meech first. And at this meeting, one of the guys, most likely Sharp, the guy he had mentioned earlier to Meech, betrayed Claude. And as Claude was giving the guys the information, Remy came in and killed Claude. Back in Detroit, Bryant is still going through it about the death of his son Kevin, drinking heavily and breaking down in front of Kevin's room door before Jen started banging at Bryant's door. And we can see that Bryant's place was a mess, probably hasn't even been cleaned since Kevin died. But Detective Jen convinced Bryant to focus his energy on getting revenge on Henry and BMF, and when they take them down, they can finally get some peace, because Bryant is still blaming BMF for Kevin's death in addition to Henry. Then as Bryant and Jen were staking out Henry's spot, he was giving Jen the info about Henry's cousin Tyson, telling her that he was the one who logged in at the juvenile facility and likely gave the orders to do what they did to Kevin. So Jen told Bryant that they would divide and conquer, she would take down Henry, and Bryant would go after Tyson. Around this same time, T was meeting up with Sam from the gas station about hooking him up with his family, the Chaldeans, who Henry gets her weight from. And the clerk asked Sam at this time about a fake lottery ticket, giving T an idea about how to clean his money. So T's now going to be working with Sam and his family gas station chains, buying all the winning lottery tickets ranging from $5,000 to $1 million from the winner plus 10%, in addition to a fee he has to pay to the gas stations, as a way to clean his money and to purchase houses, cars, and jewelry moving forward. But on the way out of the gas station, T saw some kids, one of them being Breeze, and noticed that Nikki was in the backseat of the car drinking. So T grabbed Nikki out of the car, demanding that she go home with him, busting the bottles of alcohol, and threatened to beat down Breeze at the same time. This was right after Nikki agreed to be Breeze's girlfriend. The next day in Atlanta, Meech had one of the homies testing the stash spots that they had installed and also the fake IDs that they got from Tina. The fake IDs checked out, but not the stash spots. But in preparation that it wouldn't work, they didn't have any real product in the car, but put in baking soda that looked like whey. But because the stash spot didn't work, Meech and T now have to head to Miami the next episode to meet up with Francois, who did the work for the boxer, Mac Attack. But the Red Dogs took one loss, only to get a W this episode as they raided the Techwood projects after another shootout, and this put the MK's operation on hold, pretty much running them out of Techwood, and Glock returning to Miami to regroup. So next episode as Meech and T head to Miami, Glock's gonna be there also. But before Glock left for Miami, he wanted Meech dead and put a hit out on him. And we got to see whose side Angel is really on as she overheard Glock's conversation, then warning Meech at the club later on. So during this conversation, we learned that Meech and Angel both still have feelings for each other, but Angel is now going to be playing a very dangerous game, giving Meech info about Glock as she's now moving to Miami, also with Glock to dance at a new club. Getting me to Charles and Lucille. No Dr. Maurice this episode, but Charles got an opportunity to play for the Campbell Brothers group that Lucille enjoys. And he asked Lucille to come see him play. And as T was cutting Charles' hair for the concert, Charles asked Terry if he had any work at the diner. As T handed Charles a wad of cash as an advance, so he can start competing with Maurice to get his family back. And Charles took the money this time, but only to keep his family together. So when Charles was playing for the Campbell Brothers, he killed it. And when him and Lucille was backstage, one of the group members met up with Charles and wanted to work with Charles moving forward in the future. Then Charles pulled out a pocket full of money, telling Lucille that he was going to take her out, letting Lucille think that he made that money from the gig. Keeping in mind that Charles told Terry earlier in the episode that the gig wasn't paying very much. While Charles was winning his wife back, T was out to dinner with Keisha, about to dead the competition with Vince. T had some drinks with Keisha, keeping in mind that T normally doesn't drink. Then Vince rolled up and interrupted their date. But T already had Hoop get all the information on Vince and let Vince know that he now knows his entire routine from sunrise to sunset. And when Vince turned to Keisha, she let Vince know that she was satisfied with T and has no interest in getting with Vince. So hopefully we've seen the last of Vince and he doesn't cause any more problems moving forward. Keeping in mind that Saint didn't go away easy after he warned T about Markeisha in season 2. But Vince's threat about the IRS did cause T to step up his game to another level nonetheless. And T's drama between Keisha and Wanda might be over with as well, as Wanda accepted the fact that T didn't want to be with her any longer after hearing Lucille's pastor speak, and decided to move forward with her life by enrolling in cosmetology school. But one thing to keep in mind about T and Keisha's date was the fact that she was building up Terry, telling Terry that he was born to lead, and unlike Meech, he never cared about the Flash. So we see Keisha in Terry's ear about Meech, and this could definitely play a role in their future fallout. As Meech was in Atlanta putting everything on hold because of the Red Dogs until him and T got back from Atlanta with the new stash spots in the cars. And as he was waiting for Claude to show up at Platinum Palace with the other leaders of the Atlanta crews for a meeting, Remy had Claude's head delivered to Meech on ice. Then Remy let Meech know that since the MKs were ran out of Atlanta, that he's back running things. And now Remy's more powerful than ever before because he has the other leaders of the other Atlanta crews backing him now also. But before this, the stripper that Meech hooked up with at Magic City in Season 2, Dilla, and her friend Crystal let Meech know that they had a room. And later on that evening, after Meech hooked up with them, when Meech was just about to leave, Glock's Lieutenant Taka busted in the door, firing at Meech and hitting Dilla in the process. Then after Meech and Taka shot it out, then squabbled, Meech threw Taka out the window from one of the top floors of the hotel, killing him and fleeing the scene. So Meech has officially caught his first body, and we don't even know if Dilla survived. And I do think it was likely Crystal who set Meech up because the fact that Taka had the room key to get into the hotel room already. And when Taka busted in the door, Meech was already getting dressed, But Crystal was trying to get him to stay just a little bit longer, like she was trying to stall him until Taka got there. And while Meech just caught his first body, Bryant catches a body the same night. After following Henry's cousin Tyson, he proceeded to beat him to death. Now, I don't know if this is Bryant's first kill being a cop, but it's likely his first kill in the streets though. So as Bryant held up his end of the deal by killing Henry's cousin Tyson, Jen was supposed to be putting Henry in the ground as she went deep cover for the second time. This time on a one-on-one date with Henry. And on this date, two cops walked in who could have recognized Jen, so she started making out with Henry to avoid being seen. And then Henry took Jen back to her place where Jen could have had the opportunity to take Jen out, but decided not to. After seeing Henry's family photo, she decided to leave. Now, there is also a possibility that she got out of there like that real quick because she was actually about to hook up with Henry, but when she saw the photos, it reminded her of what her actual mission was. But during this date, we got a little more into Henry's backstory as well, and a little insight into why she is like she is. She told Jen that she never had a mother because her mother died giving birth to her, and her father has always hated her for it. And Blaze showed this earlier in the episode as Henry owed the Chaldeans money, but it was her uncle who had to come through to help Henry because Blaze left her hanging. But T had another plan already set in motion to take Henry out the game anyway. T got his meeting with the Chaldean leaders who Henry's getting her product from, and he's using his wet method to even be able to offer a better deal to Henry's plug under the condition that they stop supplying Henry. So we can definitely expect Henry to be on demon time this episode because not only is she being cut off from her supply, but she's going to find out that her cousin is dead also. So Jen survived this episode, but I think she should have struck while she had the chance. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.